Classes in session. Hey everybody, and welcome to Unlearn 16. You know the answer, classes in session. Today you just get me. Just little old me. And little old me and saving Metro Prep. Now, I'm going to do a little backstory for everybody to understand what's going on, what we've gone through, and where we are right now in order to catch all of you guys up if you haven't been paying attention. If you haven't been paying attention, where have you been at? I don't understand. I've done TikToks, I've done podcasts. I don't understand. Okay, so I'm going to give you the synopsis, the overview. I'm going to tell you where we are. I'm going to tell you where you can help. I'm going to tell you where we're going to go. Are you ready? Here we go. So, the story starts, I've been at Metro Prep Academy going on 22 years. So technically, the story starts 22 years ago. I sit down with Wayne McKelvey. He interviews me. We fight for an hour about unions. And I leave his office thinking I'm never going to hear from him again. And what do? I get hired, and I've been working there for 22 years, fighting with him pretty much every single day. This year, in the last few years, Metro has gone through a lot. So we were renovated from where we were at. We were forced to move very, very quickly. We managed to get a place. That was a whole thing in and of itself. I remember looking at Wayne going, do you want to do this or do you want to be done? Like, do you want to be done here? Like, it is what it is. Maybe it's time to retire. Maybe it's time to be done. We can't find a new building. He looked at me and said, I'm not done. So with Ryan and me and his sister and Sue, and we found another place. And we found this other place. And within 2 months, we got this place. And I don't know how I did those balloons. That's ridiculous. And for those who are just listening, balloons just went up the entire video. I have no idea. Although I guess it was well timed. Within 2 months, we found a new location. And as we found a new location, we moved in and we renovated this entire, it was going to be 25,000 square feet. We renovated the entire building in 2 months, decorated it, had it ready to go for September. Kids walked in, we saved it, new building, we have X amount of students. We go into the first semester and we round the corner, and what hits us? COVID, right in the kissa. So we shut down. And we shut down and we go online. Now, that's not really the hardest part because we handled the online actually fairly well. The hard part was we had a pretty significant student population that came from outside of Canada. So we had these international students that as soon as COVID happened, the following year couldn't get visas to come back in. Everybody was terrified. Everything shut down. So we went down from about 200 kids to about, just under that, to about 60. Now, when we went down to 60, you got to know, 60 students in this brandly, newly renovated building was not enough to pay the bills. Wayne never fired a teacher. He never cut back anybody's salary. What did this man do? Well, he figured out ways for him to cover the loss. And as the years progressed, you guys know, coming out of COVID was hard. A lot of people didn't have money. A lot of people couldn't send their kids to private. There's lots of things. And we were gradually ratcheting it up, but not very quickly, and we maybe weren't expanding marketing department the way we should have been. And we knew we were doing a beautiful thing and we were supported by this beautiful guy and a vision, but a vision that wasn't coming to fruition because without the students, we can't implement the vision. And that went on for until this year. And this year, and over the last few years, actually, Wayne's health started to deteriorate. He had a stroke. He came back. He had diabetes. He, got healthy, and he went up and down. But, my mom is a bit younger than him. That's what happens. You go up and down. You get something, you fight it, you come back. And then this year, he got sick. But once again, ended up in the hospital. But I thought, he goes in, he gets better, he comes out. And I went and sat with him after I found out that he had cancer. And I went one night and I sat with him for about an hour, and he was just Wayne, laughing and joking and talking about who the best students were, who's causing trouble, asking for the gossip, joking about politics. You know, it was just Wayne telling me to wash my tattoos off. And throughout that hour, I thought, that's it. He's going to be fine. All this talk, he can beat cancer. He beats everything. And we were leaving, and I was there with a coworker of mine. He looked at us and said, "What are you guys doing after this?" And I said, "Wayne, it's almost 9 o'clock. We're going home to bed." And he goes, "No, no, no. You guys, I want you to go out and we have dinner, and I want you to go dancing." I looked at him. I go, "Dwayne, I haven't been dancing in 15 years. What are you talking about?" And he's like, "You go out and have a good time." And when I left, even though he was in great spirits and he seemed okay and healthy, I felt in that moment that was his way of A, saying goodbye, and B, saying, "Don't you dare waste it." So I walked out. We walked out, still thought there'd be a comeback special going on here. We walked out, and about a week later, he passed. I think his body and his mind had equally called it a day. And so we were met with this in just during March break. And we were, devastated. And we came back, and I thought, and a lot of the kids were very nervous about what is the school, what's going to happen to the school. And I thought, listen, we'll rally. People will take up different monikers. I will not let this school go anywhere, all of these kinds of things. And then within about a month, so what does that put us in? April? The end of April? Not even the end of April. I'm trying to remember the dates here. We were told that the school was going to close, that the economic weight of COVID and everything that Wayne had tried to do to support it was too much to bear, and it couldn't be shouldered. And that was it. We were given termination letters. We were told it's going to close. It went up on the website like instantaneously. And I remember Ryan and I looking at each other going, no. No. The answer is no. It's not going to close. So we instantaneously and kind of like serendipitously made some connections with different individuals. This one individual who had been an agent at our school, who I very much connected to. We connected with him and tried to brainstorm ideas of how to save Metro. What was that going to look like? Could we save it in that space? Do we have to move? Can we get investors? What can we possibly do? And we sat there for 3 hours and tried to come up with all of these ideas. And any idea was welcome. And as we sat there, he has said, I think I might have an investor. They have a building. They can do this, this, and this. Maybe they'll be interested. How about we invite them to Metro, talk to you and Ryan, see what they think. And they came down and, we talked to them. Lovely, absolutely lovely people. And understanding that at this point, we were terrified that we were going to lose kids, right? We were terrified that it all had happened so quickly, and I couldn't possibly, we couldn't have a plan quick enough, and kids were just going to go. And whether we could save it or not, it was going to slip through our fingers because we weren't fast enough. We didn't know ahead of time. We didn't have any time to plan. And we talked to this individual, and we came up with this instantaneous plan. He had a building. He'll renovate it. We went there. We saw the building. We felt the building. We could see how it could be renovated quicker so it could be ready for September. And then we were trying to and then we had to have a town hall meeting where we had invited all of these families and told them who Rhino and I were and who the staff was and who everybody was. And they all knew, and they sat there in front of us and we said, this is the plan. We just need you to be with us. And it was a beautiful moment, actually, in that time where I don't know how many parents were in that room. It felt like 100, and we all just sat there, and they were so supportive and so amazing. Still trying to figure out, a lot of them wanted to figure out how to stay in that building, but understanding if we had an investor that had a building, it just made sense. And by the next day, we had a phone call from a secondary investor. Said, I don't want this school to die either. Maybe we can figure out a way to stay here. It's like a team on one side, a team on the other. Now, it was pretty beautiful, as stressful as all that was. It was pretty beautiful that I had two groups of people that didn't know us very much, knew of us, one a little bit more so than the other, knew of us, and yet believed in us enough, believed in what we were going to say enough, and how we were going to teach, and all of those things. And they understood that that investing in what we'd created there was going to be a beautiful thing. So by the second parents' night, we had a possible second option. But that second option had just sort of jumped in the game and needed time to figure things out. And we kind of broke off communication there. Like we didn't have any conversations back and forth. And while that was there, we had to direct ourselves to go down this other road. So we were like, okay, well, we have to move. We developed plans and we talked to everybody. And as that's all progressing, we all of a sudden got another call. And this other call, as I almost had, I don't know, 40 students and then some wanting to go, will follow us. Literally, they said, you can teach us in a tent. It doesn't matter. I said, I don't promise. I promise no tents. I like indoor plumbing. And then, all this time, these parents are like being so beautiful about what we'd accomplished. P.S. Throughout this whole thing, Ryan is producing and putting on and getting ready the play Frankenstein. Only because we need more balls in the air, right? So as of last week, we get an inkling that these other investors, this team, is interested. They want to see if they can keep us. They want us there. They want us supporting us. They want the name. They want all of this stuff. We thought we were going to have to leave the name. We thought we were going to have to come up with a new name, come up with everything brand new, even though the staff and the ethos was there. We couldn't take Metro for legal and economic reasons that I'm not necessarily going to dive into, but we kind of had to accept it. It was what it is, right? We can't just mourn the loss of that because the name isn't the thing. The substance is the thing, right? So we all sort of pushed through to that agenda and tried to figure out how that was going to work, when that was going to work, and there was trepidation and there was nerves, and should we this other building, and is it going to be ready, and there was a lot in the air. And all of a sudden, last week, we get another call. And the call is from the secondary set of investors. And they're like, you know what? We are going to keep you there. We are going to negotiate and try to get the name Metro Prep. Try to keep you in that building. Try to keep everybody as intact as we possibly can be. But guys, we had been through so many ups and downs. We have the name. We don't have the name. We're going to get this name. We got to get a new number. We're going to go over here. No, we're not going to go over here. We're going to rebuild this floor. And that's going to be done by September. We're going to do the next floor. So many things had gone on in my brain that when this was said to us a few days prior in last week, I didn't know if I believed it. It was like, oh, okay, it's just another thing, like another thing, okay. And then we had a little bit more of a conversation, a little bit more. And then as of Friday, last Friday. As of Friday, well, Thursday, I guess late Thursday, but we found out Friday for sure. Somehow, this beautiful set of people and their belief in what Metro is and who we are and what we do said, don't worry, guys, we got it. We have the name, we have the building, we are going to keep this family intact, we are going to grow this ethos, we are not going to let this school die. Not in part, not in pieces. We are going to keep it whole. Now, here's the beautiful part. We found that out. And on Friday, we got to announce it. And as we announced it, you got to remember, I had a whole bunch of kids telling Ryan and I they would follow us anywhere, right? I talked about merch. By the way, there's a whole school gear line coming out. You guys are going to be very impressed. I'm going to come up with one piece of gear really quickly because a lot of people have been wanting to see it and buy it, and I'm gonna make it available, period, to anybody who wants to support. But as all of this is happening, and so we finally tell our kids, we're going to save it this way. We can't save it. And by the way, the other investor understood. The other investor's like, I understand that you can stay in the building. I understand that different options have been made possible. We wish you all the best. Call us if you need anything. These are the good people. I need you to understand the good people we were surrounded by. It's like little tiny angels kept popping in to do what they needed to do to get us to where we are. So all these kids were so supportive, right? Their parents were lovely. The kids were lovely, even though they had to have been nervous. And I didn't realize how nervous they were until we made that announcement on Friday. And they screamed. They screamed like pure joy when I called their parents, the same elation. Now, the name means something. The name's 42 years old. It means something. That's beautiful. But we've built a beautiful, beautiful school. And we only want to grow that. And I think the idea that the emotional tie that kids had to that building and that place and that name and that history, pieces of Wayne and pieces of what we'd done, and they screamed with such joy. What I realized in that moment is they weren't 100% sure to follow us. They weren't even 70%. They were nervous, but they never for a moment made me feel and Ryan feel anything but supported and anything more, anything less than a family. We were all going down that road together. And we were going to go full steam, and we were going to go locked in step, and we were going to go hand in hand to accomplish what we needed to do next. And when we found out that we saved the school in its entirety, those screams didn't just tell me how much Metro and that building and what we created meant to them. It told me that we meant so much to them that they were willing to set aside all of their fears and trepidations because they believed more in the people we were and what the ethos we created and the school environment we knew we could recreate. They believed more in that than the comfort and the stability and the memory of the school that they were already in. I had kids saying, I knew you'd do it. I knew that wasn't the end. I knew you got... Guys, I almost started to cry. I can't explain to you what a beautiful foundation that we never had, or I never felt we had until now. Because these 40, 50, 60, 70 families who were going to ride with us no matter what. They were going with us. And it was hard. Like, we had hard conversations, and not everything was perfect, and it was scary, and it was this and it was that, and are we going to have that same thing or that same thing, and what are we going to do? Are my kids going to be seen the same way and respected the same way, and all the things that they're worried about? And these families were going to ride with us anyway. It's like a test of fire. It's like they said, well, we're going to find out what you guys are made of. If this is real, if what we've created at Metro is real, the name doesn't matter, but if it's real, they will ride with us no matter what. And they did. They did. I get calls and text messages of support of all of this beautiful stuff. Kids talking about new merch and gear and what they wanted and blah, 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 how they wanted to help paint the new school, whatever they needed. We were going to, and it solidified us. It cemented us, not just as a school, but as a legitimate family. I'm not saying we didn't lose some kids, sure. Some kids, unfortunately, made commitments before we knew we were staying. And, it's sad because I wish we could have done it faster. I wish we could have done it clearer. I wish we could have done it seamlessly so nobody had to be afraid at any given moment. But I'm telling you right now, the fear we all felt and the trepidation and maybe even the terror, we all felt it together, and we all went down the road anyway. And as we went down the road anyway, we built something in chaos that is beautiful. It's like when you have a relationship and you go through hell and back, and all of a sudden your relationship is 10 times as strong as it used to be. That's what just happened. Do I wish everything was smooth sailing? Sure. But part of me doesn't. Part of me, and I know this is weird, is thankful for the fire that we walked through together, because it fused us. It made me understand what I do and why I do it. It made me believe that the good and the way that our teachers teach and Wayne's heart led that school is the foundation of everything that is good and that is powerful. And now we get to do a rebirth. Now we get to step into the future with this school and this ethos and build it and magnify it and tell the story of it. And even better, understand that those students and those families were just as scared as we were, but they were going to go anyways because they believed in what Metro stood for. I was talking to one of the investors, one of the primary investors in Metro and buying the school and now running the school. And they told me a story of why they had such a heartfelt connection. They'd heard about Wayne and they heard about Metro, and they would hear from other people that they were connected to about this school and what it did and how it took kids that maybe didn't fit in every other single place, that maybe struggled with different learning abilities, or maybe, lived with different level, like on the autism spectrum maybe, or they lived with any kind of, neurodivergence that you could possibly think of. And when you throw them in a class of 30 kids in private or public school, they get ignored, they evaporate, they fall into, they merge into the background, and nobody sees the beauty and the potential and the amazing parts of who they are. And the stories that they would hear about Metro alumni and what that school did, and the testimonials that they read or that they saw reminded them. They have a family member, sibling's child who is autistic and was systematically sort of excluded and banished from the public system, and they tried to put them in the private system, and it didn't work there and it didn't work here, and they actually thought of moving to where Metro was in order, because they'd heard such beautiful things about what our school has been able to do and how we've been able to do it. And luckily for them, they didn't need to move. They found a school that was amazing for their child. But with this, when they heard about what we do, this person knew that they didn't want Metro to go anywhere. Not only did they not want Metro to go anywhere, it's not just like, oh, I don't want it to go anywhere because it's a good school, it deserves to exist. No, 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 no. I don't want it to go anywhere, and I want to make sure that I am a part of it. I want to make sure that I'm an element in this sort of new precipice, and even though we've been around for a long time, but we are at a very beautiful place of emergence, and they wanted to be a part of it. And they were willing to bet on us. We're not the biggest school in the world. We're still trying to make a comeback. We still need to grow. We still need to do all these things. But to them, that wasn't the point. That's a marketing issue. That's a publicity issue. But what we've done in that school for the last 42 years, and me for the last 22, and what Ryan has done, and what our staff has done, has created this space where look, it's not Shangri-La, but it is a space where we ensure a few things, or we try to. We keep our class sizes small enough so that nobody can fade into the background. And we keep our minds open enough to understand that every single person, that every single student has untapped, unrealized potential. And if we can only make them feel safe and secure and special enough, it will fall out. It will be built up, and they will be able to do great things. And that's it. That's all we want to do. There's no economic end game. Well, we want you to make $300,000 a year. We want everybody to be doctors and lawyers. It's not about that. It's about figuring out how do I make that kid safe to learn? How do I make it okay for them to be afraid, but take the risk anyway? How do I make them understand, these students, that they are powerhouse of potential, and it doesn't matter if they're wrong, they just need to give it a go, and they need to go 100%. If I can do that, if I can, and my school can do that with students, it is the best possible educational platform you will ever create. If you can teach the student and not the curriculum, you will create magic. And the magic will allow those kids to grow up in a world with a level of confidence and self-esteem and empowerment that will overcome all of the obstacles life can throw in their way. That's what speaks to people. It's not the suit and the tie and the Ivy League boathouse row. No, 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 no. I do like a good boat, but it's about taking a student and making them feel more powerful than when they walked in that door. Because if I can do that, if Metro can continue to do that, there is no greater accomplishment that I can possibly achieve in my life than that. So now we're on a new journey. Now we're on a new journey to build, to save Metro, to rebuild, to expand, to empower, to take the glimmer. You know what I feel like it is? This is going to be a good comparison. You know, at the end of the never-ending story, I'm sorry if you're not old enough to and you don't know the never-ending story, but for the love of God, please go watch it. I don't know what you've been doing with your life. The end of the never-ending story, when the nothing has taken it all, but the Empress has that little tiny bit of glimmer in her hand, a little tiny bit of sand, and she looks at Sebastian. He goes, "It's all gone. It's all gone." And the Empress, and I'm paraphrasing, says, "It's not gone. This is all you need to wish and to make something happen once again." And with that tiny grain of sand, with that grain that has been left over, Sebastian creates a whole new world. The Rock Eater, Atreyu, Artax, they're all back because all you need is a grain of sand and a spark, and magic can happen. So I hope you guys come along with me and see all the magic that we're about to make happen. And if you have any beautiful ideas, if you have any ways to help, if you have any notions of how to empower this beautiful school to grow and to spark once again, I would love to listen. And I would love for you to be a part of this journey. And I promise you, I'll keep you updated every single moment along the way. But we all know it's going to start with that hoodie. So until next time, thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Dismissed.